ever bite into a juicy tomato or savor like a perfectly roasted ear of corn, get ready to have your mind blown, because we're about to uncover the surprisingly deep roots of Native American foodways. You might be shocked to discover just how much our modern plates owe to the ingenuity of indigenous peoples.
It's true. We're diving into research that stretches back thousands of years, revealing not just ingredients, but a whole worldview woven into every meal.
Okay, so we're talking more than just like the first Thanksgiving feast here, Ike. Give me an example that really drives this point home.
How about this? Did you know that roughly 60% of the food we eat today actually originated in North America? And it's all thanks to the agricultural innovations of Native Americans.
60%. I mean, I knew corn, beans, and squash were a big deal, but 60% is mind-boggling. What else is hiding in plain sight on our dinner tables that we might not realize has indigenous origins?
Think about the humble potato, a staple in diets around the world. It actually traces its roots back to the Andes Mountains of South America, where it was cultivated by indigenous peoples for centuries. Their deep understanding of selective breeding allowed them to develop varieties that thrived in diverse environments, paving the way for its global spread.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. We're talking about incredibly diverse cultures across North America. How did their environments and traditions influence what they ate?
Picture the mesas of the Hopi Reservation. Their relationship with corn goes far beyond just sustenance. For the Hopi, corn is a sentient being, central to their cultural identity. It's woven into their spirituality, their ceremonies, their entire way of life.
That's a completely different way of looking at food than most of us are used to.
Exactly. It highlights a key difference in worldview, a concept of interconnectedness with nature that permeates many Native American cultures. Take, for example, a Cherokee tradition of preparing fish and corn mush, particularly for those who were ill.
So it's not just about the nutritional value of the food itself, but also about its cultural and even spiritual significance.
Precisely. This approach to food and well-being is also evident in Midwewin, traditional healing ceremonies that demonstrate a holistic perspective, recognizing the interconnectedness of the mind, body, and spirit.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. This idea of interconnectedness seems to be a recurring theme.
It is. One Cherokee elder eloquently explained that their culture doesn't view people as isolated individuals, but as interconnected parts of their community inextricably linked to the land and their heritage. This perspective challenges many of the individualistic values that are often emphasized in Western societies.
It's a perspective that I imagine could lead to some fundamental misunderstandings, especially when it comes to research and how we study different cultures.
You're spot on. One study highlighted the challenges researchers faced when trying to apply Western research methods to understand Native American concepts. Take the concept of resilience, for example. Western methods tend to compartmentalize and isolate variables, while many Native American cultures view resilience as a holistic concept, intertwined with community, spirituality, and their relationship with the land.
So are you saying that the very act of studying these cultures using traditional research methods could actually perpetuate the misunderstandings we're trying to overcome?
It's a real risk. For instance, one study on traditional healing practices found that researchers struggled to quantify the spiritual aspects of healing ceremonies using standardized questionnaires. This highlighted the limitations of Western approaches when dealing with such holistic concepts.
It seems like researchers would need to completely rethink their approach to truly understand these cultures on their own terms.
You're absolutely right. Several scholars have emphasized that for culturally specific prevention programs to be successful, there needs to be a sense of ownership within the community. It's not enough to simply impose outside solutions.
This makes me think about the relationship between Native American communities and academic institutions. How has the study of Native American cultures been approached in academia, and how has that evolved over time?
That's a complex question. For decades, the study of Native Americans was primarily driven by non-Native scholars, often through the lenses of anthropology and sociology. Unfortunately, this frequently meant that Native voices and perspectives weren't adequately represented or respected.
It sounds like a recipe for misinterpretations and skewed narrative.
Exactly.
It's like we've been looking at a photograph through a distorted lens, and now we're finally starting to see the image with clarity.
That's a powerful analogy. And in recent decades, there has been a significant shift. We've seen a surge in Native American studies programs and a growing movement of indigenous scholars who are challenging those traditional academic structures and pushing for more culturally appropriate research methodologies.
So it's about reclaiming their own narratives, telling their own stories.
Precisely. One scholar described it as the seeking of ways of recovering native tribal lands and resources, as well as the recovering of a significant body of American Indian intellectual traditions.
It sounds like a long overdue correction to a history of being silenced and misunderstood.
It is, but the journey is far from over. We still see instances where research on Native American communities is conducted without proper consultation or respect for tribal sovereignty. Take, for example, the situation where a research center dedicated to studying Native American issues decided to prioritize research on Indian gaming without any specific request from a tribe.
Wait, what? They just decided that this was a pressing issue for Native American communities without even bothering to ask.
It seems that way. The research center was apparently responding to pressure from a Senate committee with ties to states with large Native American populations rather than prioritizing the needs and concerns of the tribes themselves.
That's incredibly frustrating. It sounds like there's a real danger of research being used as a tool to further the interests of those in power rather than a means of understanding and supporting these communities.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that's why it's absolutely crucial to have Native voices at the forefront of these discussions, advocating for research that is truly beneficial and respectful of tribal sovereignty.
It's a reminder that knowledge is power, and who controls that knowledge wields a tremendous amount of influence.
Absolutely. And this struggle for control over their own narratives extends far beyond the realm of academia. Many Native American communities are fighting to preserve their cultural heritage and traditional knowledge in the face of ongoing assimilation pressures. One of the most heartbreaking examples of this is the forced removal of children from their families and communities during the boarding school era.
It's difficult to even fathom the trauma inflicted upon generations of Native American children through these institutions. One source I read described how these schools aimed to systematically strip away tribal culture, forcing students to abandon their native languages, cut their hair, and adopt European customs.
And the devastating effects of those policies are still deeply felt today. There's a direct and undeniable link between the suppression of native languages and the lower academic achievement rates among Native American students.
That's a connection I hadn't fully grasped before. It makes sense that feeling disconnected from your culture and being forced to learn in a language that isn't your own could have such a profound impact on a child's sense of self and their ability to thrive.
Precisely. And that's why there's been a growing movement to revitalize Native American languages. The Native American Languages Act passed in 1990 was a significant step in the right direction, recognizing the rights of tribes to use their native languages as a medium of instruction.
It's encouraging to hear about these efforts to reclaim and revitalize these languages. It's about so much more than just preserving words. It's about preserving entire ways of knowing and understanding the world.
You're absolutely right. There's an incredible richness and depth to Native American languages that often gets lost in translation. They embody unique perspectives on time, relationships, and the natural world that are difficult to express in English or other European languages.
One source I came across really brought this home for me. It stated that the dominant culture separated human beings from nature, from the land. They put themselves above these things and taught that only mankind has a divine spirit, that they were to lord over the land, the animals, over nature.
That quote highlights a fundamental contrast in worldviews that lies at the heart of many of the challenges facing Native American communities today.
It's not just about historical injustices. It's about ongoing threats to their sovereignty and cultural survival in the face of things like climate change, resource extraction, and the continued erosion of tribal lands and treaty rights.
You're exactly right. But despite these immense and ongoing challenges, there's an incredible resilience among Native American people that continues to inspire me.
One of the sources we have captures this sentiment beautifully. An elder involved in a study on the impact of historical trauma on Native American communities stated, "I am not a victim, and neither are my people. We are survivors."
That statement is a testament to the strength and enduring spirit of Native American people. And it's that spirit of survival that's driving these incredible efforts to preserve traditional knowledge, revitalize their languages, and advocate for greater self-determination.
It makes you wonder how differently we might view history and our place in the world if we were to adopt a more indigenous lens.
It's a powerful thought experiment, isn't it? Imagine how our understanding of our relationship with the natural world, the importance of community, and the true meaning of leadership might shift if we were to embrace those indigenous perspectives.
It's about recognizing that there are multiple ways of seeing and understanding the world, and that we have so much to learn from cultures that have thrived on this land for centuries.
You've captured it perfectly. It's about recognizing that Native American cultures aren't relics of the past. They're vibrant, dynamic forces that continue to shape our world in profound ways.
It's like we've been handed a new set of lenses, allowing us to see the world with fresh eyes.
And those fresh perspectives can lead to incredible insights. As we continue our deep dive into Native American cultures, I think it's important to remember that we're talking about hundreds of distinct tribal nations, each with their own unique history, traditions, and experiences.
Right. It's about appreciating the incredible diversity within this broader umbrella of Native American culture.
Exactly. And one example that really highlights this diversity, as well as the remarkable resilience and adaptability of indigenous peoples, is the story of fry bread.
Fry bread. I've definitely heard of it, but I have to admit I don't know much about its origins.
Well, imagine this. You've been forcibly removed from your ancestral lands, stripped of your traditional food sources, and given meager rations by the government, often consisting of just flour, lard, and maybe a bit of salt. That was the harsh reality for many Native American tribes during the 19th century.
It's hard to imagine being in such a dire situation, trying to nourish your family with such limited ingredients.
And out of that hardship, fry bread was born. A simple yet sustaining food made by frying dough in lard, it became a symbol of survival and resourcefulness.
It's amazing how something so simple could come to represent so much.
It's a testament to the power of food to transcend mere sustenance. Fry bread has become more than just a meal. It's a symbol of cultural resilience, adaptation, and even resistance.
It's served at gatherings, celebrations, and even as a way to remember and honor the sacrifices of previous generations.
Exactly. It's a powerful example of how food can tell a story, not just about ingredients and techniques, but about history, culture, and the enduring strength of the human spirit.
This really underscores the importance of understanding the cultural context of everything we eat. It's not just about what's on the plate, but the stories behind those ingredients and the traditions they represent.
And that understanding can have a profound impact on other areas of life as well, including education.
Right. We've been talking about the importance of recognizing and respecting different ways of knowing, and that definitely applies to how we educate the next generation.
One study I came across emphasized that native language programs may be necessarily incorporated to ensure student achievement.
So it's not just about teaching Native American history and culture as separate subjects, but actually incorporating indigenous languages and perspectives into the curriculum.
Exactly. Because when Native American students can see themselves and their cultures reflected in what they're learning, it can have a huge impact on their engagement, their sense of belonging, and ultimately their success.
It creates a learning environment where those diverse ways of knowing are valued and celebrated.
And that benefits everyone, because when we expand our understanding of different cultures and perspectives, we all grow.
It's about fostering empathy, challenging our assumptions, and opening ourselves up to new possibilities.
And that brings us back to the importance of listening to Native voices, because they have so much to teach us, not just about the past, but about the present and the future as well.
We've touched on their role in advocating for environmental protection, preserving traditional knowledge, and creating more sustainable economic models. What are some other areas where we see Native American communities leading the way?
One area that's particularly inspiring is their approach to healthcare. Many tribes are incorporating traditional healing practices and perspectives into their healthcare systems, recognizing that true well-being encompasses the mind, body, and spirit.
One source highlighted the medicine of Native American traditional values, emphasizing the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of balance in life.
It's a holistic approach that's often overlooked in Western medicine, which tends to focus on treating individual symptoms rather than addressing the root causes of illness.
It's about understanding that our physical health is intricately linked to our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, as well as our connection to our communities and the natural world.
Exactly. And this holistic perspective is also evident in the way many Native American communities approach environmental stewardship.
Right. We've seen tribes taking a leading role in protecting their ancestral lands and resources, often in the face of powerful corporate interests and government policies that prioritize short-term gain over long-term sustainability.
One study we came across focused on the Hopi tribe's efforts to preserve their traditional way of life in the face of dwindling water resources. The researchers used a concept called existence value to try and quantify the value that the American public places on ensuring the survival of the Hopi culture.
So they were trying to put a dollar amount on something as intangible as cultural heritage.
It might seem like an impossible task, but the researchers found that there was significant public support for federal funding to help the Hopi tribe access a new water source, even if it meant higher taxes for some Americans.
That's incredibly encouraging. It suggests that people are starting to recognize the intrinsic value of cultural diversity and the importance of respecting indigenous rights.
And it highlights the interconnectedness of these issues. We're all connected, and the choices we make today will have ripple effects for generations to come.
As we delve deeper into these topics, it becomes increasingly clear that we're not just talking about isolated issues, but interconnected systems. Everything is connected.
And that realization is at the heart of many indigenous worldviews. It's about understanding our place in the web of life, recognizing our responsibility to future generations, and living in a way that honors the delicate balance of all things.
It's a powerful message that resonates deeply with me, and I hope it does with our listeners as well. As we conclude this deep dive into Native American cultures, I'm left feeling a sense of awe at their resilience, their wisdom, and their enduring connection to this land.
And I hope it inspires us all to continue learning, to challenge our assumptions, and to approach these cultures with the respect and humility they deserve.
Because there's still so much to learn and discover, and those voices deserve to be heard. If this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to seek out those voices, to listen to their stories, and to honor their traditions. Let's continue this conversation, and let's continue learning together.